I'm leaving for Germany in a few hours to cover Spiel 19 with the Board Game Geek team. We have more than 40 hours of live stream coverage coming starting on Wednesday, October 23rd, running through Sunday the 27th. Watch for it. If you're curious, if you're not going to be at the fair yourself, you can learn a lot about the games that will be shown there. We will have a new game roughly every 5 to 10 minutes. It's a hugely ambitious schedule, thanks mostly to Doug Garrett, who put that together. I will be running around the fair talking to publishers. I'll be on camera for some of the host blocks and otherwise meeting with publishers to talk about what's coming in 2020. And at this point, since I am now out of time for whatever else I might have wanted to do, it's time for what will now be an annual Spiel of Regrets. That is brief mentions of games that I did not cover, even though I wanted to. And I'm recording this a second time because my batteries failed during the middle of the first time. That's great. So I've been running around the house trying to get batteries and make sure I can get this done before I head to the airport. So, no cuts. I'll just do this as briefly as I can. So, a bit of background. I get a lot of games from publishers, which is sort of to be expected. I write the news section on BGG. I do overview videos. I post a lot on Twitter. I'm highly active in terms of covering games, and I cover lots of different games as well as I can. So publishers send me a game, and of course it makes sense for them. It's like a lottery where they're going to spend some amount of time and money for the cost of the game and the price to ship it to me, some effort for that. And if it gets covered, great. They get publicity, and it's probably well worth it in terms of the cost. If they don't, well, then they wasted some time and money. And I typically don't ask for games just because I have a specific taste and I know what I'd like, and so I ask about something that I really want to cover. And I don't ask for many other things, but even those sometimes I don't get to, which I really regret. And we'll mention at least one thing here. So these are things I did not cover for one reason or another that I have. And so some things like Shadow Rivals from Mo Ideas Games, we featured at Gen Con 2019. We had copies in the Hot Games room. They're for sale as well at Spiel. They will be at the BGG Con library in November if you're going to be there. But I wrote to Christine at our library, and I asked for a number of games that we had picked up at Gen Con so that I can see whether I could cover them myself as well, just because I have interest. They seem to fit my taste, and then I got to almost none of them. So that's not good. Or Outback Crossing, which came to me, I think, in July, a game by Bruce Whitehill, who I used to game with in the early 2000s. Oh, Bruce, I'm sorry I let you down. A game by Spiel for 2 to 6 players where you're trying to score points by building lines of animals. You claim those lines of animals. I played it once, had some questions, just never got back to it after I got those clarifications. It happens so often where things just don't come back to the table. Or I met Pac from GDM Games at Gen Con 2016 and gave me half dozen titles that they're doing. And I played 3 of them and did not cover any of them, so that's too bad. So Troya is a 2-player sort of tug-of-war game where you're trying to pull gods over to, not gods, demigods, heroes, over to your side of the table in order to win pieces of the Trojan horse or advance Hector and Paris towards their final goal. So, the tug-of-war, I want to say Lost City style, so not tug-of-war, but you get what I mean. A sort of clever card play where you're trying to put symbols together and do certain things. Nishikigoi, a cooperative game for 1 to 6 players. Played it 3 times and had some issues where it seems like it would work much better as a digital game because you're trying to create a koi pond with cards that have a lily pad crossing them in some way and 1 or 2 fish or no fish on each side of the card. And you're trying to assemble a complete pond that has fish in the middle of it that meet targets based on dice that you rolled. So you're playing and saying, okay, we need 4 black and 4 orange and 3 white, and we've got 3 black and this orange and black and 2 white right now. What else do we need, and how close are we to completing the circle? And you're having to check constantly to see whether you're meeting the totals on the dice. And it was more tedious than challenging, even though I get the sense of what it should be and felt like it should be a video game or a digital app or something like that. Oolanga, we played 9 times, all 2-player. It's a 2 to 4-player game. Mostly with the wrong rules because I interpreted cards a certain way, which I can talk about when I still plan to do a video. I'll talk about these sort of interesting things that happen when you think games work one way and then you discover they actually work a different way and you're just like, oh, I liked it better the other way. I don't think it works as well. I don't think it works the way that the designer wanted it to work with the actual rules as published, but who am I to say? Oh, well, I know who I am. I know what I might say, but we'll talk about that at some point. Or I got a box from Taiwan Board Game Design, the number of titles that I played and then just did not do videos on. For example, Kung Fu. I'm looking for another one here that I had on the table to talk about. Kung Fu, 2 to 5 player drafting game where the cards have 5 pieces of information on them, where they have an initiative value and a starting icon that will affect your base scores and a dice combination you try to meet on a turn when you play it in order to activate the attack and defense values. So you've got these 5 pieces of information. You're drafting, you're going to play out 3 at a time to represent your team, and then each person takes a turn attacking and the others defending based on the initiative values. And you're trying to just kill people, run them out of hit points, and push them out of the game. I played twice with 2 people. Once partial game with 3 people. In the 3 people game, we all sort of drafted conservatively, so we all rolled the dice and we all succeeded with everything, so it was the same attack and defense values the whole time, and it felt very static. But again, that's 3 plays, and you're just like, oh, okay, didn't get back to it. Or Soloween, which I played 4 times. It's a 2-player game where you're trying to get 4 in a line, where you put down tokens and it flips adjacent tokens. It's a very simple, straightforward base game. I wanted to play with the special powers, and I did not get to, so then I never got that game to the table. Also from Taiwan Board Game Design, Zoomate, a 4 to 7 player game, and I'm just not getting large group games to the table. Or Kung Fu Fight, which we featured on camera at the Game Fair and Con, so it was covered, just not by me at this time in the final form. So there's that. Or there were situations where Jumbo Spiel sent me 2 games, Spies and Lies and Harvest Island, and I did an overview of Spies and Lies, and Harvest Island came out in Spiel 2017 from Taiwanese publisher Big Fun Games, and I'm like, okay, well, we got this covered. I wrote about this one, so I covered Jumbo. All right, I did my job. I did enough, and that also applies to Spanish publisher Ludonova that sent me Yukon Airways and Smoothies and Reiner Knizia's Babylonia. Well, I published a designer diary from Al Ludic on Yukon Airways and from the designers of Smoothies on that game. And so I did a video on Babylonia, and I'm like, okay, Ludonova's done. I covered everything in one way or another, and I just didn't get those games to the table. It's kind of the approach we take with our live stream as well, where people want to present 5 games and we say you can present 2, because we want to fit in as many publishers as possible, show the highlights from each publisher as they judge it, or what we think people want to see. That's what we can do. We could probably have 3 times as many games on schedule if the fair lasted 3 times as long and we didn't want to kill ourselves on Sunday when everything was done. So I keep looking at the time to make sure the batteries don't run out. I'm freaked out about that now because I did more than 10 minutes before. And it failed in the middle. Okay, so that's the approach with a live stream. Try to cover variety. Try to give lots of things out there. Just because people have lots of different tastes, you want to show off what you might be interested in by showing as many different things as possible. It's not necessarily how I cover the previews, just because I also want to talk about things I think I have something to say or have some interest in, or can do more than just say, here's how this thing works. So Japan Brand sent me a few titles. Monster Party, didn't play. Again, team game. Stinky, seemed interesting, and I love Time Bomb from New Board Game Party, but did not get Stinky to the table. Or Elrect, or Sakura, which comes with this fantastic box with Sakura leaves where you pull it to open. Or the Sudoku style 2 or 4 player game, Number Place City, which also looks very cool. I instead covered Fillet, which I did a very crazy, exuberant video for, because it's a fantastically good abstract strategy 2, 3 or 4 player game. It's really good. It's great. And then I did not get to the other 5 titles they sent me. So the hazards of sending too much sometimes, or possibly sending it all, as with Italian publisher XV Games, which sent me a package here. It has a 5-player only trick-taking game. And I love trick-taking games, but I've not been getting 5 people to the table pretty much since I moved in April and sort of building up a new group again and getting regulars to come. So I want to explore that, but I did not. Or Thieves Garden, which I did not get to at all, but I did play Greener 4 times. It's a 2-player only abstract designed by Nestor Romero Andreas, who does Nestor Games. He self-published this, and now XP did an edition where the board is on the bag, and you have, each player has either one player has black tokens, one has white. There's a whole bunch of neutrals that is twice as many tokens, so 18 white, 18 green, 9 each white and black. You put them out at random on the grid, and on a turn, you move a piece until it jumps on top of something else. If you can't jump on something, you can't move that piece. And you keep going until no more jumps can be made, and whoever has captured the most green tokens wins. Very simple, straightforward. Liked playing it, played 4 times, and said, okay, I want to play more. I want to get this. And then time ran out. So, in the future, on there you go. Very small game. Works well. Or open and play. Got a couple of Alex Randolph designs. Did not hit the table, even though I love Alex Randolph. Instead, I focused on Hurricane Ball and Philip Prue's Penguin Tasso, which I have a video for coming Monday, October 28th. So it'll be a Spiel preview after Spiel. No, it's just a game preview. Talking about a game that is available on the market, although possibly hard to get if you are not at Spiel or in Korea, or they don't make another license for Tasso. But I'm still interested in covering these, but we'll see how much time is available, which was also the case with Knockmall So Gut, a new standalone game similar to Knockmall from Inca and Marcus Brand. It's 1 to 6 players. The gameplay works mostly the same, where it's a roll and write. You roll, and everyone uses the same die result to do things, but it's got now a special die, which has special powers, where you can bomb things to cover stuff, and you get row bonuses. You can do a color block where you mark out a color at once, or you get hearts, so you get bonuses as you complete rows. And I played it twice and then did not do a video on it. Some things just arrived late, or again, we had the designer diary issue, like Royston Hawkinson wrote about city skylines, and this is under an embargo till October 25th anyway, so I can't even show it to you. Or Deep Blue, where I played it twice in prototype and 5 times on the finished game, but 4 of those times I had certain rules incorrect, so it was not flowing exactly as it should. It worked well. It wasn't better or worse. It was just different. It was a different game that emphasized different things, where I thought people could bail out of dives whenever they wanted. And somehow I'm misremembering how the game was played based on the earlier prototypes, which is a hazard, not rereading the rules sufficiently well. So we played, and we didn't really emphasize crew members enough because we thought you could just bail. You didn't want to press your luck anymore. But no, once a dive starts, the dive leader determines whether you go back or not. So you have to prepare yourself more, which involves gearing up more to have oxygen and weapons to defend yourself and ensure that you can stay on the dives long enough to actually profit from them. So it changes the whole nature of the game. And as such, I didn't want to do a preview for a game that I had not played correctly. It seems like a wise idea. Or just things showing up and not getting played. Judge Dredd, new version by of the Wildlands from Martin Wallace. This being a riff on that. I love Brian Bolin. I love all his stuff, and I did not even open that up. Or Mystery House, which is another title that we had in Gen Con Hot Games Room. I think there was an issue with certain things. I don't know whether this is fixed or not based on final production. I'm not sure, because I didn't open it. Sorry. Or Capstone Games sent me a copy of Race for the Chinese Zodiac, designed by the Singaporean designers, I believe, from Starting Player. It's a 3 to 5 player racing game, and it seems good, and then it didn't see the shrink wrap come off of it, which is also true of Embers of Memory, a game by Kuro, which was originally Robins of 3 Shahrasi? Yes, I think so. And based on the Embers of Memory series, I have not opened yet. Or Moonbase from Japanese publisher Itten, which I played once so far and liked, where you're stacking rings. You're sort of making the craters on the moon, and you have overlapping impact craters, and you're building things up to score points for them as you add more craters to the board. And then it didn't get back to the table. Or Escape from the Asylum, which Lifestyle Games is, Russian publisher Lifestyle Games is releasing on its own and tries to license a escape room style game. I like those games, and that just didn't come out. And it even has games packed inside of it from when I brought it back from Nuremberg. I don't want to talk about it. It's too many games. Or U-Bike Taiwan, another from the Taiwan board game design group by Big Fun. It has a 6-nymph style build-up where you're putting out number cards and you're drafting those and trying to, over time, build up a tour that visits different parts of Taiwan, where you get bonuses based on how far you traveled or if you've seen lots of like things together. Standard sort of set collection, but with a 6-nymph style of how things build up over time. So you're either or Colorado style as well. You're either adding to a row or you're going to take a row, and then you take a row and you're out for the round. All right, battery's still going. Still good. I got this. I can finish this. Slyville from Hexy Studios just showed up the other day, and we had recorded an overview at the Spiel and Messe Fair. Just did not get to it. Or Marvel Champions showed up, which I don't think is going to be at Spiel, but man, I really should have opened this and played it by now, but I have not. Or from Emperor S4, Trial of the Temples, which was, again, part of the BGG library at Gen Con, and I borrowed this copy and then did not touch it. Although we did record an overview, again, at Spiel and Messe. Yes, on an unfinished form. And then I got a copy of Jiguan, which they had asked about, and I'm like, oh, this sounds very cool. It looks very cool. It's got the standard sort of Emperor S4 look to it. It's just it's so well done. I love all their stuff. Hanama Koji is still just such a fantastically good two-player game. It makes me inspired to try everything else from them, but apparently not before Essen. So, so sorry. Electropolis, I think final title that I have from the Taiwan Board Game Design Group, which I know Steph has talked about. Dale Yu from Opinionated Gamers also did a write-up, and they all seem very enthusiastic about it, so I have something to look forward to when I get back home. What else? Odyssea from Ludo Arts had rules in Polish. I'm like, okay, I'll get to it at some point. And then I actually looked at the rules in BGG, and it was like 24 pages for all these different game variants and spin-offs and different ways to play and this, that, and the other. And it was not flowing right for me. I'll get back to it at a later time. Nope. Apparently, I did not. Did I mention Silver Bullet already? I'm not sure. I had things organized by stacks. This was another one where Ted Alsbach wrote a diary, and I'm like, all right, Ted, I guess that'll do, because I'm not getting to your game. Last few, almost there. Oh, time is running out. Catan Starfarers. Oh my goodness. Man, I played Catan, or Starfarers of Catan many, many years ago. I know had a reputation for the ships being fragile. It's a very long game as you're building out, and there's been lots of changes to it in this new version. And as you can see from the shrink wrap, I have not yet experienced those new versions. So, something else to explore. Final thing I want to mention. Okay, final thing. This is biggest regret, and I am going to apologize to the publisher in person, and when I get there, there's a few others as well. Just make sure I make it clear. I cover as much as I can. I want to cover more. I want to have more time, and I'm talking with Scott about how we can do this where I have more time to actually do more public covering things rather than sort of database entry style stuff, because completing all the convention previews for Gen Con and Spiel and Origins, all those is awesome, and I love making it possible for you to get all the information that you can out of that, but I don't have to do all of that personally. I can just make sure we get the gears in motion and other people can actually enter that information and request images and prices and hassle people for large 2D front covers rather than weird angular shots that don't look good in the database. I can get other people to help me do that. So that's what I'm trying to do, so that I can focus more and actually get things covered and finish obligations that I take on, such as when I receive games from Mizo Games in May, and I wasn't sure if they were going to be like, oh, they're not going to be at Gen Con. Okay, don't have to cover them. Are they going to be at Spiel? I'm not sure. Eventually, yes, they're going to be at Spiel. And then I still didn't get to them. I am sorry. I'm so sorry that I did not do this. Frenemy Pastry Party, it's a game for 3 to 6 players where you're trying to collectively finish meals or desserts in order to score points. Just did not get to it. And then the main thing, oh my goodness, Raid on Takao. So I thought this would also be a good accompaniment to my coverage of Last Bastion, which I did recently. That's an Antoine Bauza design where it's cooperative and you're trying to protect a fortress from all these attacking forces. So Raid on Takao is cooperative, but in a very different way. It's similar in that there are attacks going on and there are bombs raining down in this particular area, except this is a real area. So I am not a big history buff. I don't know a lot about this, but even in the introduction to the book, it's telling you how Takao now has a different name, I believe, in Taiwan. It was a large Japanese base during World War II where Japan had set up forces that would build aircraft and do other sort of military supplies and had all sorts of other production facilities as well, so that when the United States was doing its island hopping campaign near what turned out to be the end of World War II, where they were bombing at different islands where Japan was staying, they bombed Takao a lot and caused lots of devastation. So you represent regular people who are in the city, and you have all sorts of relationships to other people where there's a father and a daughter, and there's friends, and there's people who are married, and mentor the student, and different things. And you have different scenarios. There's 5 scenarios in the game where you are trying to accomplish something in that scenario, whether it's rescuing people or just finding food or taking care of an animal or whatever it is. There's all sorts of things going on, and it was an imposing game, and it's something that I have not covered before, and I am incredibly sorry that I did not get to it in time for this, because they have asked many times, and I have said, I hope to do it. I hope to do this. And then I didn't do it. So post-Spiel, I can still talk about Raid on Takao and go in more detail there. There's tons of things there. One of the scenarios, again, just stuff I don't know because it's not great on history, but apparently when the Americans were bombing that, they actually bombed a Japanese ship that had prisoners of war on it and killed hundreds of prisoners of war. So it's just this, all these incidents I don't know about. So I don't know if you've ever read Annie Dillard, but I love her book for the time being, and it talks about instances in history like this where you try to confront something almost unimaginable, and lots of times it is something you have not even heard of. It is something you were completely ignorant of, and yet it happened, and there's all these other people that went through it, or that died in it, or that suffered it, or that caused it. There's all sorts of things in it, and it's partly about putting yourself in other people's shoes and understanding human interaction, human nature, and you have empathy for other people, and you're understanding a bit more about how the world works, because of course you see only a tiny little portion of that, and that's what you're doing. Hold on a sec. Okay, time's running out. My ride. Not much time left. So it's a great book for the time being by Annie Dillard. I read it many times and talk about it, but on topic, Raid on Takao puts you in that situation where you are trying to survive or help people. There's a scenario where you are trying to rescue sailors from ships. But while you're doing that, you also have to survive bombings in the cities. You have to worry about food because you run out of stamina. And to get back your stamina, you need to eat, or you just have to let your health suffer. And your health will fall over the course of the game, and your despair will rise as terrible things happen. And if your health and despair are ever on the same level, then you're dead. So it's a brutal sounding game, a realistic, as opposed to Last Bastion where we're just like, oh, we're done, and you sweep it away. And then here it's much more like, this was the situation. Let me present a little bit of history to you. So I'm sorry, Miso Games. I'm sorry, everyone. I did, 40 videos or something, and yet I think I just showed you 40 other games that I did not cover in that time. So ideally you can watch our Spiel live stream. I will continue to do more preview videos showing off as much as I can and talk about games and their place in the game industry and how they work and in history and whatever else comes to mind as I play through a particular game. Take care.